All right. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Thanks for joining me on another vlog. Um, this is, please excuse me in advance, I'm going to be sniffing a lot. I have been really sick for a while now, and last week was really hard, which is why I didn't upload a vlog. I recorded about 3 separate times and I just couldn't finish one. This week was actually supposed to be a spinning vlog, and I spun a very small skein of yarn, which is really exciting. It's my first time plying yarn, so I've spun singles before, and this is my first my first plied ever at all, and I'm just so excited about it. I'm so happy with it. It's obviously a chunky yarn. It's only 7 yards. I'm just kind of like going through my bag of merino wool and sampling everything, and just kind of getting practice, getting comfortable with the activity of yarning, of spinning, and then once I get more comfortable and more proficient with that, I think in the future I might just be doing singles for weaving and then plied yarns for like crocheting and things like that. So anyway, I jumped into that. I didn't mean to jump into that. Hi, welcome to this week's vlog for the Black Flower office and stationery store, yet to be opened. I am still preparing my product lineup. I'm going to be opening on Etsy. I'm still debating if I want to open up on my own website, but let's just keep that TBD for now. My name is Sunstone. I often go by Sunny, and so this vlog, as I kind of talked about last week, this vlog is just kind of a space where I kind of talk about my personal and shop projects and how it relates to kind of my mission with what I want this store to be. I really want this to be a space and a platform where people can kind of reconnect with the process and natural materials from which our goods come, because a lot of people have kind of lost touch with, the sourcing of things with this whole fast fashion and just fast everything industries. People don't really know where their food comes from. People don't know what their clothes are made of. And people really take advantage of the sweatshop labor that brings us all of the wonderful things that we have. And so not only do I want to kind of slow us all down, but I also want to have informed discussions about the industries that bring us these quick convenience goods. So I have been reading Plantation Goods by Seth Rockman and also Capital by Karl Marx. I actually started reading this and the Grundrisse like last year or maybe 2 years ago. The person I was trying to think of last week, his name is David Harvey, and he is a renowned economist, and he did a course excuse me, with the People's Forum of New York City. and he just kind of walked people through the grundries. Now, I think he also has a class on capital, but I could be wrong. But anyway, I'm still in the first chapter of plantation goods, but I just found so much of this so interesting because it is so eye-opening at just how intensely the entire American economy was based on and reliant on slavery. We often think of, the South being where all of the reliance on slavery was, and the North was the place of freedom. But where I'm at right now in the book talks a lot about New England and how New England was so deeply intertwined with the entire slavery economy of the South. You had people in Connecticut, you had people in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, not quite New England, but New York. Those economies, the manufacturing industry was servicing the plantations of the South. They would make materials. There's one material actually that I just came across. What is it called? So there were certain things that they would make. They would call it Negro cloth, and essentially it was the Negro cloth here. Essentially, they were just focusing on making cloth that was strong enough to endure heavy labor, and it wasn't often thought about the individual human being that would be wearing these cloths. That also came up with the axe and how there were a lot of manufacturers of axes that would make it specifically for the purpose of labor and of harvesting timber, but would not think about the comfort of the user, the wellness of the user, because they didn't matter. What mattered was the profit, the labor that could be extracted. And so one of the things I came across was the double kersey. It's called it's a wool cotton 12A fabric. So now I'm trying to figure out, it says doubling and twisting the cotton warp. So I'm wondering if it means like, how you'll thread one yarn per slot or per hole in the braid for weaving. So I'm wondering if they're literally saying doubling the warp, like 2 per hole, 2 per slot. But I'll figure that out because I actually want to recreate this. But there's lots here, and it's just so interesting. All the things that we can learn. Let me not lose my place. What also was really enlightening to me, and something that reminded me of a video I recently saw. Really quickly before I move on, what I was talking about with the slots in the holes. So when you make a piece of fabric, part of the fabric you'll put the individual yarn threads through here. One in the slot, one in the hole, slot, hole, like that, all the way across, or as wide as you want your fabric to be. And then this allows you to move the threads up and down so you can weave the other thread through it, and that's what makes something called a plain weave. So when this individual for the Jersey cloth, I think it was called, I believe the way it's written makes it sounds like there's 2 in a slot, 2 hold, 2 slot, and that usually makes a little bit of like, not a denser fabric, but one that doesn't have as many like tiny little gaps for holds to go through. Anyway, as I was saying, so one of the things that's really enlightening about reading this book was about how it reminded me of this video that I recently saw of Maya Angelou. She was talking about listening to a woman say how they draw parallels between the enslavement of Black women and the, let's say, domesticity of white women during the era of slavery, and how although, you know, the Black women were formerly enslaved, you know, in shackles on plantations doing that labor, while the white woman thought of herself as free and maybe not, you know, not oppressed, but free, which obviously relatively she was, but she drew the comparison of like the labor in the household and the tireless work that the woman would, the white woman would do, and her submission to her husband as the head of the household, etc., etc. This book, when it talked about the manufacturers in New England, it made the point that actually a lot of the manufacturing was happening in households. The people who were actually making the fabric and making the shoes, they were doing that at home, and it was the people who were able to do the distribution, the people who were able to make the deals with the slaveholders in the South. They were essentially these middlemen who were getting these capital rents basically off of the labor of the people who worked and actually made these goods in their homes. And it just made me think about how that really echoes so much with today when we think about sweatshop labor, when we think about, you know, the factories behind Temu and, you know, Shein and stuff like that, how it is individual people at these sewing machines sleeping on factory floors. You know, we think of fast fashion and convenience goods as being made by machines, but at every point in the process, it's made by, it's touched by, handled by, distributed by a human being. And so it just really made me think of this whole system of capitalism and how it really distills down humanity into the value of labor. And in Capital by Karl Marx, he talks about, I think I said this last time, but essentially how goods and commodities are kind of reduced down to their exchange value. The linen is no longer, you know, the fiber of flax. Rather, X yards of linen becomes one coat. That is its value. It's no longer valuable as flax. You know, the sheep is no longer a sheep. It is wool. And so, excuse me, I just found it really interesting, like reading both of these things together. And mind you, I didn't like review or anything before I started talking for this video, so I'm sure I'm like missing a whole bunch of stuff here in my summary, but I just think these are really good texts for us to kind of be a little bit more aware of the process of consumption, the process of capital, and how capital like moves through a system, and how it breaks the human relationship with the natural world, because we no longer know, you know, what products come from where, or do we even care? It's just, where is my one coat that is made of X amount of yards of linen? So I just thought that was interesting to talk about, and next time when I'm not as sick, I'll be able to, you know, talk a little bit more in detail about that. So one of the things that I'm really excited to show you this week is one of my product designs. So I have this backpack design that I am so excited about. It's what I'm calling the obelisk shape. You can't really see it in the view that I have it in now. If I go like this, that's a little bit better. So this backpack is actually called Elevation 8805. It is 2 granny squares in the alpine stitch. So just really, I mean, I kind of modified it a little bit just because I liked the way that my alpine stitch looked versus the one that was in the book. But yeah, so this is the design right now. I'm so excited about it. I can't even explain it. This is my favorite thing that I've made so far. And this is going to be the strap. Now, I'm excited about this because this is a different type of color work that I usually do. And this is also my first color work design that is not stranded color work. I only ever do stranded color work, so this is a lot different for me. And I'm just really happy with how it's coming out so far. So this is going to be the strap. I'm just going to kind of fold it on itself, and I think when I do the straps, I'm going to only do like one over the torso. So it's a little bit more like a satchel versus like a 2-strap backpack. So that is in progress today. While I'm here, let me actually show you some of the other designs I have in progress for the shop. Okay, so doing a lot of show and tell today, but here are some of my favorites. It's not everything, but this is some of my favorites of what I've gotten done so far. Now, this one, I'm probably gonna have to rename it because it is inspired by one of my favorite childhood shows. And I don't know if I'm gonna be allowed to call it this, but for now, this is called Agni Kai. First, let me address what I'm so disappointed about. I started this part with what I had left over of some of my cotton yarns, and then I ran out of this one. Actually, kind of ran out of all of them, but mostly I ran out of this one, the yellow. And we all know how dye-lots go. So this yellow is a lot more fiery than this yellow, which is like almost white. and it's so heartbreaking. So I don't know how I'm gonna resolve that for future iterations of this product. But right now, this is a book cover. So obviously I haven't finished it, all the ends are still here, but it's gonna be like this. Very excited about it. So yeah, it's just so clear. But yeah, anyway, Agni Kai, if you've ever watched Avatar, The Last Airbender, you know that Agni Kai is the duel that members of the Fire Nation engage in. It's like to the death. It's pretty serious. And I chose this stitch because it's called the thermal stitch, and I chose to actually crochet with 3 strands of yarn because to me it just looks like dancing flames. So I'm just really excited about this one. I can't wait to make a matching bag. Of course, you know, the bag's not going to be exactly like this. I want everything to have a little bit of its own, like, kind of style, even when it's in a set. So, and that being said too, not everything is going to have one, like the same type of set, right? So this one's going to have a book cover and a backpack, and Elevation 8805 is going to have a backpack, and I think I might do like a pencil case. I'm actually not sure. I haven't decided yet. I'm just so in love with the backpack. But let me also note that my product line is inspired by the elements. So Elevation 8805 is actually inspired by Big Bear Mountain. I grew up in Southern California, and we would go to Big Bear Mountain every now and then. It was actually a big part of my childhood, and it's funny because so we lived in the desert, and Big Bear Mountain is probably like 45-minute drive from where we were at. And when people would drive on the highway, and they would have snow on the tops of their cars, it was actually kind of a class symbol for us around there, because I mean, if you had property to either live or visit long term up in Big Bear over the winter, that meant you had more money than the people that were down the mountain or in the desert. So when people would drive down on the highway without taking the snow off the top of their cars, we would just giggle and be like, oh, they're showing off. So I just thought I would kind of pay homage to that with the colors here. And of course, it's fall where I'm at now, and so I had to work some of the fall colors in there too. So this one's really special to me. Elevation 8805 is the highest peak in Big Bear. So this one means a lot to me. I don't know if I finished the thought that I introduced, but yeah, elements. This is earth. This is fire. This is one of my water pieces. It needs a little bit of work. I don't like how I line this here. I'm either gonna put another patch here and line this differently, because this one is an iron-on interfacing. So I think I'm gonna probably not do iron-on in the future and not line this portion, but only line this portion. So we'll see. But this one I have called Aquatic Ambience, because working with these colors together made me think of the Donkey Kong Aquatic Ambience song. know a bunch of people use Donkey Kong music in their YouTube videos, so I don't know how like intense they are about like copyright and all that stuff. So we'll see. And obviously, just to point out, some of these have not the cleanest stitching. These were my prototypes. Basically, I was working through different designs that I wanted to do. So don't worry, yours will not look like this. So those are some of those. And then my last favorite, again, ignore the messy stitching. I actually just kind of did this one on a whim because I did not actually intend it to be the pouch that it became. So I just kind of like winged it at the end, and I was like, I'm just gonna change it into something else. But this is Java. Now this is actually one of my hand woven designs. It's not a crochet piece. This is woven. So this is Java, obviously inspired by coffee. Whoops, hold on, I'm getting stuck here. There we go. So this one's gonna have a lining like this. So this is the type of lining that I'm gonna have on a quad ambience, and I'm gonna sew on the button before the lining next time, obviously. But again, these were just prototypes, some of which I just kind of made on the fly. But yeah, so really excited about them. This one is one of my favorites by far. This is Java. So those are some of my favorite product designs right now that I'm gonna have in the shop. Now, as you can see, I have both hand crocheted, well, obviously hand crocheted, you can't machine crochet anything, but crocheted and hand woven products, right? So for my woven products, I've been doing a lot of like pre-wound warps. Now remember how I just showed you with the with the thread, excuse me, the reed with the holes in the slots. This is what I would be putting through those holes in the slots. So I've pre-wound some warps. These are essentially half of what's going to be coming up in some of my woven designs, my hand woven designs. So I've been preparing these so I can get started on those. Oh, and I just realized I actually left one of my designs. I put it in my lap and forgot it was there. But this is my Busy Bee bag. Again, ignore all of this. I had to do a lot of salvaging, a lot of mistakes along the way. But this is Busy Bee. I will have a black button for this one for closure. So yeah, I'm really excited. I don't think I've lined, oh, I lined this one with felt. So I like that. So yeah, this is exciting. Again, ignore all of this. This was just like, I gotta get this done. I just gotta get the shape together just so I can know like what's going on, and then in the future I will take my time. But these are like, I just need to get this out of the way because I have so much other stuff that I need to prep. But it will be better. These were prototypes. So this is Busy Bee, another hand woven one, as you can see. So I'm really excited about these product designs. I love it so much. So I just like want to reiterate, everything that's going to be in my shop is going to be handmade by me. That's the entire point of my shop, is to have these, essential everyday items, your office items, like your little pencil pouches or your small purse that you need to take to work. Or just little extra pouches that you need to slip in your backpack or things like that. These are all going to be handmade, just really trying to slow us all down, you know, get us away from the convenience economy, the fast economy, and have things that will last. Having things that are made of real fibers. This is all 100% cotton. I think my sewing thread is probably polyester, but I think I might even be wrong on that. I think that's also cotton. So yeah, just trying to get us all to just like, let's get back to the real. Let's get back to connecting with the earth. Let's get back to having items that we use every day, that we know a human hand made each part of this. They made the woven cloth. You know, they cut the fringe. They sewed the bag. And they did so mindfully and with a choice and with agency. So, yeah, that's Busy Bee. Anyway, back to this. So these are going to be some hand-woven designs. The hand-woven are most likely going to be backpacks and book covers and the little pouches. I'm thinking about also having some hand-woven bookmarks as well, but we'll see about that one. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of show you what I've been working on. I'm also going to show you the state of my pajama top that I was making in last week's vlog. So before I do that, let me just do a little bit of work on this, just so you can kind of see the process a little bit. And while I do that, I'm just going to chat. So, yeah, again, apologies for not being present last week. It's just, I have been very sick. I don't really want to talk about what kind of sickness, but it has really, really messed me up pretty good. I have an issue with like getting my strands twisted and things when I'm doing color work, whether it's stranded color work, whether it's this, oh god damn it. Stranded color work or this type of color work. And I was watching a video by a knitter that was saying that if you're having trouble with that, that's because you're not prioritizing your like dominant color. And I'm just wondering about that because like this project doesn't have a dominant color. They're both the dominant color. So I don't know how relevant that information is to me. It's hard to do this particular crochet work while trying to keep it in view of the camera. So maybe what I'll do is actually scoot closer so that I can see. Whoops, try not to break things in the process. Okay, cool. That works. Anyway, yeah, I am really interested to hear if any of you attended the No Kings protest. If you know anybody that attended the No Kings protest. Interesting. I heard millions turned out, which is just amazing. So, I mean, that's really reassuring to hear because, like, it's scary times, man. It's just, and there's so often where you just feel like you know, especially with like the books that I'm reading right now, you just see all of the history and you see, you know, what led us here, and you're just like, I can't do, like, what can I do? I'm one person. And actually, one of the things that I saw, I mean, I love this, look at this. Oh my god, I love it. But one of the things that I saw, it was a YouTube video, I think, and they were saying that, like, one of the strongest, most powerful things you can do in times like these is to continue writing your own story. This one's really tricky here at the end. Let me try to get it. I'm so sorry for all the sniffing. Let's see how we can do this. This one got kind of lost down there. But they're saying one of the most powerful things you could do at times like this is to continue to write your own story, because obviously with their like flood the zone strategy, they're trying to overwhelm you. They want to overwhelm you. They want you to react. And, you know, yes, we do need to protest. We need to respond to what they're doing. But one of the things you should also be doing is continuing to write your own story. And what that means, at least in the way that I'm doing it, is that I can continue to be conscious of, you know, what type of education am I giving myself? What type of information am I taking in? One second, I'm trying to decide if I should chain, or should I just, I'm feeling like maybe I should chain. Let's see how that looks. Whoops. And then I can go like this. Whoops. Let's see how that is. I think I'm okay with that. Let's go with that. So yeah, what kind of information are you taking in? Are you basically going to surrender to their propaganda? Are you going to continue to write your own story? Are you going to continue to be aware of the history of your country? Or are you going to, you know, just kind of take everything at the word of the oppressor, essentially? Are you going to let them rewrite history? Are you going to let them control the narrative? No. You're going to educate yourself. You're going to continue to build relationships. You're going to continue to live your life, not as if nothing is happening, but as if they don't dictate your day-to-day, because they don't. And that's just kind of like what I've been thinking about. See, right over here, I don't know if I like that I made the chain. I think I'm gonna go back here and just do one, because I don't know if I like that, because I think about, yeah, I didn't do that down there. This is what it looks like to draft a pattern. You just kind of try stuff out and you're like, did that work? No. So let's do something different. But then, yeah, see, I'm wondering if I even should have chained anything down here, because looking like this. Oh, no, we're good. It did kind of, so when I chained the white, the Aran tweed, actually, when I chained that, it kind of made it a little bit poofy here. That's fine. I'm I'm writing down the pattern as I go, so you know, when I find something that doesn't work, I'll just like write it down. But again, because this is annoying flies in here. It's so annoying because when I keep my window open during the day, there's like gaps in the screen, and so the bugs can get it. Usually it's just flies, but there's been bees before, and that drives me crazy because I'm allergic to bees, and I don't have EpiPens. I should invest in that. Anyway, so yeah, like, let me know what you guys are doing as part of your resistance work. And that can be on an individual level, that can be at a collective level, like if you're part of a book club, or like I know somebody who's part of a socialist book club, which I think is really cool. And I know a lot of people will probably assume I'm socialist because of the type of literature I read and my ways of thinking, but I am not. I think there are a lot of good things about socialism, but historically, because of the way historically, because of the way a lot of socialist endeavors have turned out, and I know that the West, the capitalist West in particular, always kind of screws with socialist states, i.e. Cuba. But historically, I individually don't know enough about good outcomes of socialism. That would make me feel comfortable calling myself a socialist. And what particularly scares me about it is the idea of centralization of power to the state. Now I know, like, theoretically it's supposed to be like, you know, democratization of power as held by the people, but that means centralization of power to the state, right? Because the state represents the people. But what happens when that power is centralized to the state and the state stops representing the people? So yeah, that just kind of freaks me out a little bit. But I would like to learn more. I think it's really scary that the Trump administration has named anti-capitalism and what else? Antifa and anti-Christianity, named all of those things terrorism or pre-crime. What do you guys think about that? I think it's quite ridiculous. And I think it's obviously unconstitutional. So I'm not having to actually finish that row. I just wanted to kind of give it a look, see where we're at. I like the way it's coming out. So I just wanted to show you my where I'm at with my pajama top. As you can probably tell, my stitches were tighter on this side. So when you look at it straight on, it kind of rides up a little bit, but that's fine. That can be fixed with blocking. But yeah, I think it's really beautiful. I'm so happy with how it's coming out. It looks beautiful. So that's the front panel. And then I'm thinking when I do the back, I'll do like a lace portion that's between the shoulders, like on the top between the shoulders. And then I'm gonna make a matching set of bottoms with this bamboo rayon. I think it goes kind of nicely with that. This kind of dreamy, like starlight situation. So, yeah, I'm excited about that. So anyway, thanks so much for joining me this week. I hope that everybody out there stays safe, that everybody keeps their head up. I know that these are really difficult times right now, and things can be so discouraging, but I just want everybody to just keep in mind that life continues on. I know things are really difficult. Things are super difficult right now. You know, everything's getting more expensive. I can't actually hear myself. There we go. Everything's getting more expensive. Everything's getting so much more hateful and etc., etc. But at the end of the day, we all have the power and the agency to engage with one another with love and with compassion. And I just hope that, you know, when we have the opportunity, that we all make the choice to do that. So, everybody keep your head up. Everything's gonna be okay. I do believe that.